Well, good day and welcome to another Model Railroad Academy Facebook Live event. My name is Ron Marsh. I'm your host here today for this live event, and I want to welcome you and glad that you could join us here. As today we're going to talk about a basic exercise to help build and improve your skills for scratch building. And I again just want to let you know how glad I am that you are here today. I know right now with the situation in the world, many of you are kind of shut in at home and not been able to really get out. You may be off work or maybe working from home, but feeling a little cooped up, maybe having just a little bit of cabin fever. But what better way to pass some of the time and keep yourself from going a little stir crazy than to spend some time doing some model railroading. I'm going to hope that you're getting the opportunity to do that during this time. And some of you are people who have been thinking a little bit about trying your hand at scratch building some structures or items for your model railroad. And maybe that's something that's brand new to you. Maybe you've never tried it, or maybe you've tried it once or twice and had a little trouble, just didn't like your results as much. Well, today I want to share with you an exercise that's really just a practice exercise, but a great one that you can do and you can do over and over again just to kind of practice and hone your skills to help you to be ready to do some great scratch building as you jump in. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Excuse me, before we get into that, I just want to let you know that here at Model Railroad Academy, we have started a brand new group just for you on Facebook, where you can go and share what you're doing and what you're working on in model railroading. You can ask your questions and interact with other modelers in that group. And it's a great place just to interact and build some community, sponsored by Model Railroad Academy. And we're going to put that link in the chat section right now. By the way, if you are joining us live and you have any questions or comments as we go, I hope you'll leave those in the chat section. We'll respond to those as quickly and as best we can during the session today. And if you're watching on the replay, I hope that you'll leave your questions and comments as well, and we'll try to answer those as we can. And we'd just be glad to know that you are here. And with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera down to my workbench here, as today we're going to get started on a little exercise. I'm going to explain to you what we're doing and why. And again, this is something that you can do at home to help you improve and build your own basic skills for scratch building. So I'm going to turn you down to the workbench now. And I just want to show you, first of all, a couple of models, and I want you to think about what they have in common. Almost everything that we build, whether it's a kit or a scratch built or kit bashed or whatever, have one thing in common. I'll start by showing you this little model. This is a small scratch built structure that I have built myself, and this is a small feed store. It is based on a real feed store in Bowie, Texas. It is truncated a little bit, selectively compressed to fit a particular space that I have, but it is a rail-served industry. And in fact, in reality, this is a very small industry that receives box cars filled with sacked livestock feed and supplements and other bagged types of goods. The rail served door is, of course, on the back. But this is a small structure that would be similar to one that a lot of people would perhaps scratch build. Now, the other model I'm going to show you is a piece of rolling stock, and this is obviously not scratch built. But one of the things that's very fun to do is to scratch build rolling stock. And as we do, a boxcar might be the type of piece of rolling stock we might try first, just because it's a fairly simple design. Think for just a moment about this boxcar. If you were going to build a piece of rolling stock, a boxcar for in particular, think about this structure. And what is it that these two things, and almost every scratch build item that we would think about building, what do they have in common? Well, the answer is they basically are built out of boxes. You know, if you think about this particular structure that I've built here, you see you've got the main structure here in the center. You've got the little office here in the front. You got this little lean-to add-on warehouse piece on the end. Basically, each of those are small boxes. You know, this is a square box. Of course, it has a pitched roof. All three of them, well, two of them have a pitched roof. One has a lean-to type of roof. But the basic part of these structures are just really simple boxes, in this case built out of shaped styrene to simulate corrugated metal. Boxcar, same way. There's some detail to it, obviously, with the ribs and the doors, and you've got, you know, trucks and wheels to think about and stirrup steps and all those things, but basically this is a box. So, great way to begin practicing your skills for scratch building is by learning to and practicing making really, really good boxes. And so that's what we're going to do today. It may not sound very exciting, but actually it can be a lot of fun, because in doing so, if you do this exercise, you know, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and each time you look at the things that maybe didn't come out as perfectly as you would have hoped and work on practicing that particular skill the next time, this can really help build your skills for scratch building. So today I've got these are just some scraps out of my scrap box. They are all plain 40 thousandths styrene. I really like 40 thousandths styrene. I use it a lot in scratch building because it's a nice sturdy plastic. It's thin enough that it's still easy to cut, to score and snap, but it is sturdy enough to make a good solid box. So as I've looked at these particular pieces, this is exactly how I pulled it out of the scrap box, and I thought this was a nice size, so we're going to use this as kind of the basis for our little rectangular box today. Now, a couple of things that we want to begin to think about anytime we're going to be doing some scratch building is we want to make sure that all of our pieces of our box are square, that need to be square. Now, obviously, when we get to building a structure, there are some things that are going to not be square. They're going to be angled if we're building roofs and that sort of thing. But for this exercise, we're going to work on making square corners and square joints, because that is the most important joint that we make in order to keep our scratch built items looking true and looking correct. So the first thing we're going to do is get the piece, and you know, if we're scratch building something in particular, we're thinking about measuring a piece to get it exactly the right size. But for today, we're going to use this as our basis, and we're going to build everything around this box, this being a size, one side of the box. And the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that my corners are all nice and square. And so obviously to do that, we need a good square tool. I've got a couple here. This is a little machinist square. And then I've got a thin little hobby square here, and both of these are very, very handy. This hobby square, this is a small one, kind of geared towards small work in scale like I do. Those of you who are larger scale modelers, you can get this exact same square in larger sizes. This is a 3-inch one. You could also get 6-inch and I think probably even larger than that. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to take my little piece that's the basis here, and I want to make sure all the corners are square. I'm going to put it in my square here, and if I can see any daylight along either side of that, then that's not square or it's not true. In this case, I was fortunate in that I found this particular piece, and all of the corners are very square, and all of the sides are very true. So that's good news. So what I will need to do now is I need 3 more sides that exactly match this, and then I need 2 end pieces that I want to fit inside of the box, and so they would need to be this same size minus 2 thicknesses of this particular material, because you have the thickness on each side as it comes in. And actually, in this case, I want the sides to be -1 thickness, because I'm going to, well, I'll show you how we're going to do those seams. These seams are all going to overlap so that they lap around, not have two pieces inside and two pieces on the outside. And how you do that is a matter of what you're trying to produce and what you want it to look like. Hi, Brian. Good to see you today. Just to recap for you, we're just working on honing and practicing some skills for scratch building. So literally, we're building a box today in order to work on those skills. Okay, so when we go to reproduce this piece, we could do a couple of things. I mean, we could take our ruler or whatever and measure that piece, and then go measure the next piece and mark it to match this. But doing it that way, we run the risk of being inaccurate in our measurement, either here or whenever we're transferring it to the other piece. And of course, if we're measuring with a square, we're better to measure on the inside. It just so happened, I don't know how it happened, but it just so happened that this piece, as it came out of the scrap box, was exactly 1.5 inches wide. Lengthwise, it is about 1 7/8 inches. So I could just measure it and then come over here and measure and mark, my piece at 1.5 inches and cut that. But I'd like to be a little more precise myself. And so what I really like to use when I'm trying to reproduce a piece like this is a set of calipers. This is an electronic caliper that I use all the time, and I really like these. These are pretty standard these days, in that this one will read in particular in inches, or in fractions of an inch, or in millimeters. That's decimals of an inch, fractions of an inch, or millimeters. So if I put that on millimeters and I go out, and there I've got a measurement, and then I can go and I've got it in fractions of an inch. There's millimeters. This is actually decimals of an inch. So anyway, the beauty of using a caliper for this kind of measurement is that I can take my caliper and open it up and set it to exactly the width of this piece. Okay. In this case, 1.5 inches. It's actually reading. Let's see. I'm going to calibrate that just to make sure. Okay, we close it all the way down, and we set it to 0, so it's calibrated. And then I'm going to open it up, and I want to snug it down. I don't want to try to crank it down, make it tight. I just want to snug it down so that it's touching each side of my piece. And what I technically have there is 1.4 now. Well, it says 1.5 now. I may have bumped it. I'm going to just push it in on the piece there, and then I'm going to tighten my set screw down, and that's going to keep it exactly there. And you see it reads 1.505 inches. So actually 5/10,000ths over 1.5 inches. That's pretty close. But by doing this, I tightened this little set screw down. Now this piece cannot move, which means that if I come in with my next piece of styrene, and I want to make sure I've got a square corner, and as I check that, I see this corner is perfectly square. Actually I want to work off of this end, so I'll check this corner, and again, yes, that corner is perfectly square. This one also is. Those are really good square corners. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my piece of plastic in here with my caliper on top. I'm going to push it up against this side, and then I can take this side and just mark it with a pencil, and I'll have exactly the length that I need. There's a little, here we go. Do this correctly here. Caliper actually has a little kind of a dimple there that allows this to fit right down inside of it. Okay, and that gives me a mark that is exactly the same size as this piece, and if I put it on there and flush it up on this side, well, we see that mark is, yeah, absolutely perfect. I always like to tell people, of course, anytime I'm marking something for doing this kind of work, I always use a pencil, not an ink pen, and I like to use a mechanical pencil because you get that very nice fine lead. You can get a very fine line. You can get exactly what you need. Okay, so I've got my pencil mark there. Now this side of this piece has got a little hump on it, so I can't square off of this side, but I can turn my square around this way because I know that this side was straight, this corner was square, or I could come around on this side and do the same thing, because this corner was square as well. Get my square on there so it's going to help keep me nice and square as I cut. I'm going to place it right on that mark, and of course the mark was just inside of the caliper, so I actually want to cut just along the outside of that piece. And find my hobby knife here. Here it is. Now I'm working today with a nice fresh number 11 blade, but I'm going to use this in a way that may be a little different than what you're used to using. I want to get my square in exactly the right place, and then I'm going to use my knife just like you'd expect, and I'm going to make one pass. It doesn't have to be real hard, just a nice pass that'll cut a little groove into the styrene. And now I've got a groove to work in. Now I'm actually going to turn my knife backwards so that the sharp part of the blade is up. But again, that's a new blade, so I've got a nice sharp point, and I'm gonna score this across that way. And what I'm doing by that, if I use the blade, the sharp blade, what I'm doing is I'm trying to shear the material in two. But by using the back of the point, I'm actually removing some material as I go across. Make several passes there, and then I could just snap that in two, and I've got a nice straight cut. And now I'll come in here and recheck this, and it is still, yeah, it is still right on exactly where I had my other one. So that's good. And I can also hold them up here side by side and see they're perfectly the same width. Now of course I need to cut this to length. That's going to be a small cut, but we'll do the same thing here. This was my original. Don't want to get them mixed up here. In fact, it's a good idea because I always want to measure from the original. I'm going to take my original here and I'm just going to make an X on it. That's going to tell me this is the original that I want to do all my measurements from. And here it just so happens that the length of this piece is 1.888 inches. Tighten our caliper down here. Again, make sure that I'm working from an end that has really good square corners. These two corners are really good and square, so we'll work from this end. And again, the same way here. Gotta make sure I've got that nice and tight against that end. Nice and square there. Make a nice mark. And I don't have to mark that all the way across. The mark, just a simple mark is good enough as long as I've got room to get my square up against that. And here I'm cutting a smaller piece, but it's still going to work okay. I use the same process. A simple score with the sharp part of the blade, and then several with the back part of the blade. I probably want to cut a little more material, a little deeper this time, just because this piece is really small, and be easy for it to not break straight if I don't cut a little further through. There we go. All right, and as I set those up, those match both directions just absolutely perfectly. Now I'm just going to work quickly and cut a couple more of those so that we're ready to cut a box. Now in this case, width-wise, this piece has got a couple of cut marks here, so I can't do it the same way, but if I turn it this way, I think I can still get a piece out of this. Yes, I can. So that's what I'm going to do. So first I'm going to cut the width here, which I've already got set. That's exactly where my caliper just was. So I'll come in here and mark my width. I'm trying to make sure I do this where you can see what I'm doing on the camera. Obviously, sometimes the stuff is easier to do when you can do it and you're not worrying about somebody else seeing it, but I'm trying to make sure that you can see what I'm doing all the way through. Simple score with the sharp side, and then, oops, score that nice and straight. Don't want to get in a hurry here because you can run off your line like I'm doing right there if you kind of get in a hurry. I want to make sure I score it nice and straight, and now that I ran off of that line, I want to make sure I scored enough times that it doesn't want to break along that kind of errant line that I made. And again, this piece that you see here, this is the scrap piece, so the fact that I did that a little bit doesn't matter. Yeah, it broke nice and straight. Good. Now we're going to come back and reset our caliper to the width. There we go. And cut that out this way here. And all of this is just really, really good practice. Again, we're learning to both hone our skills for scratch building, learning to use good practices for scratch building, and really preparing ourselves to be able to build some really nice things, that are well built and look good whenever we actually start the scratch building process. Okay, there we go. Make sure that matches up good, and yes, it does. All right, I need let's see, I want to keep my scraps separated from my good pieces. Now I've got my big piece here. I'm going to cut one more, and we got the width set, and that's what I want to start with here, so that works out just right. Do that this way. I checked the corners on this to make sure they were square before we started. I should have shown you doing that again, but I'm again making that bad mistake of trying to hurry just a little bit. Okay, and that's usually what gets us into trouble when we start thinking about needing to be in a hurry. So slow down, take your time, do what you need to do. All right, good. Now, set one more length on this, and we'll have our basic box pieces cut. There we go. Okay. I think you can see there, even on camera, even though it's very small, you can see a lot of this little white, powdery, kind of dusty stuff. And that's actually the plastic, the styrene, that the back of the hobby knife blade is dragging out of those cuts as I'm scoring it. And by the fact that it removes material rather than just trying to shear through it, I get less of that little lip on the edges, on the faces of my cuts. And it actually makes the cut a little truer. It makes it score a little better. Okay, there are the four sides of my box. Now, as I line those up, even though they've been cut and scored and snapped, a little rough, just a little bit. And plus, we want to true them all up to make sure they're exactly the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with just a flat piece of sandpaper, and I want to do this very carefully, and I'm going to do it with all four pieces together, and I'm just going to carefully sand the edges. I'm going to do this very gently. I don't want to put a lot of pressure back and forth, because what can happen when you're sanding like this, if you're putting a lot of pressure, you can tilt that just a little bit in the forward direction, and you can actually round off the ends of your pieces. You don't want to do that. I want to keep it nice and flat. I'm going to go nice and slow and just smooth those down really good. And like so. And I'm going to do the same with the ends. Same way. I don't want to get too aggressive there. Just want to make sure that it stays nice and in full constant contact with the sandpaper. And if you've got any pieces that are just slightly too big or too small, this is the way to kind of fix that too. Okay, and that smooths those down a little bit. Also, you want to go through, and sometimes as you cut those, as I mentioned, you get these kind of a rough, a little bit of a burr on the edges. And so to get rid of that, I'm just going to drag it lightly, all four sides on the sandpaper that way, just to remove that burr. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. And that gets that little bit of a burr off of the sides. Not doing this real aggressively, just real light, just enough to get the burr off, and then kind of feel it. If there's any burr there, you'll feel it more than you'll see it. So just want to remove that. Brian here says, some kind of box. Cool. Skill lessons are definitely applicable. Yeah, I mean, like with anything, we get better at something as we practice. And so this is just a great little practice session. Again, especially if you're new to scratch building, this is a great way just to kind of practice your skills, to just build a box a few times. And then he also says, don't forget to subtract the thickness of one piece. Yes, and we talked about that, Brian, I think just before you came in, and we're going to be doing that in just a minute. Okay, we've got four sides of our box, but in this case, we're going to make a completely enclosed rectangular box, so I need a couple of ends. Before I make the ends, we need to decide exactly how we want to put this box together. And what I mean by that is this. We can do one of two things, and depending on exactly what you're trying to accomplish, either one works. One of them is we can take our side, our base or top or whatever, and we can take the two sides and we can put them on the outside of this piece. And if we do that on the outside of this piece, we do the same with the top so that it fits down in between these sides. What we have then is we have a surface on this side and on this side that has no seam at all. So we don't have to worry about even thinking about trying to cover a seam on this side because there is no seam. Now, the other thing we could do is we can stack them on one side. So I can put that on the side here, but put this one on the top, and then we would kind of do the same staggering with the top piece. That's going to make every piece have every side is going to have one seam, but it will make the ends perfectly square if we do it that way. So it's just a matter of preference. Usually I like to set the pieces on the outside so that the front of my structure, if I'm building a structure, doesn't have any seams that show at all. I don't have to worry about covering them up. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to place this side and the top side inside of these two sides. Now, the reason we have to think about that right now is we need to think about the actual size of the end pieces that we need. Because when we do this, the width of this piece, this direction, is going to be the same as these pieces, but the height needs to subtract two thicknesses of this material. And so we want to do that, and then that's what we're going to do right now. So I need two pieces that are this wide to start off with, and then we'll work on the lengths. Again, we'll get our caliper turned on here. So we're going to start with the width that's going to be full. And when I cut those, I'm going to mark them. That way I know which side is the full side and which side is the side that is slightly shorter. Okay. you thought we were done marking and cutting styrene, but we've got 2 more pieces to cut here really quickly. And I'm going to go ahead and cut the width of both of these, and then we'll cut the height of both of them after the fact. All right. There's my mark. Okay, and now that I've cut that, I'm going to right here, I'm going to make a mark like this that shows me that that is the full length. That direction is the full length. The other one is going to be slightly shorter. That way I know exactly which side to put in which orientation whenever I go to assemble the box. Do another one of these, and then we'll show you how to cut the height in just a moment here. Okay. Oops. That's not what you like to hear when you're scratch building. You don't like to hear oops. You don't like to say oops. But my square moved just a little bit on that first mark, but we got it back in the right place. I think we're going to be okay. If it were to break a little off, I'd just cut another piece, but no, it worked fine. Worked fine. Okay, again, the same way, I'm going to mark the direction that this is full width. Now, as we remember, this width, my caliper turns off automatically. This width is basically 1.5 inches. Where was my original piece? Right here. Always like to have one piece that we use as an original. Pieces that you cut from that can be off just slightly, so we want to make sure that we always measure from the original, and then we adjust anything to that. Okay, so my original here actually is showing a measurement of, and this is in inches, 1.497 inches. So I'm just going to take I just got a scrap piece of paper here, and I'm going to write that down, 1.497. Now, I want to subtract from that 2 thicknesses of this plastic. Okay, and now you could do a lot of fancy math here or whatever and try to figure that out, but I'm just going to actually measure it. In this case, it's 0.08 inches, and so that's what I'm going to subtract. 0.08, and as I subtract that, I get 1.417. That's what I want this other length or width to be, 1.147 inches. So I'm going to set this down. I'm going to calibrate. It's good to recalibrate your caliper often. And I'm going to open it up here. I know that measurement is upside down for you, but you can see it, 1.417. So just carefully going to get this till I'm 1.417. That is very close. 1.41, probably 1.417. Okay, there we go. That's 7.5. That's going to be, there we go, right there. Tighten that down. And you see I've got 1.417 inches. That's exactly the width I need for these to be. So now that I've got that figured out and set, we'll just going to go ahead and mark both of these, and we'll cut these, and we'll be ready to build a box. Okay. And I hope that these are some skills that you're going to find really useful. I know that if you will try them, you'll find these really, really useful as you try to do some maybe some early scratch building, maybe your first ever scratch builds. You're going to find that you're going to have much better luck at getting buildings that are square and true and joints that look right. Let's see, keep all of my pieces together here. I know that they're really going to help you to do some nice looking scratch builds right out of the box, so to speak. No pun intended. If you'll try some of these techniques, and again, just a little bit of practice before you start trying to build that first structure will really help you. Okay, those match up really nicely, and I'm going to do the same thing I did before, and then I'm just going to come and lightly sand those down on all four sides just to kind of smooth them out. And I know this has been kind of a slow moving thing here, but it's about to come together in just a moment. Now I'll know the end pieces. They're a little different size, but also they've got those arrows on them that tell me which way to orient them. Got a little extra burr on that one. I want to get it off. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, there's my end pieces. Here are my four exactly matching side pieces. Now, the pieces that I've marked, it'll just make life easier if I put those marks to the inside so that you won't see them. So we will do that. Now, when it comes to working with styrene and cementing styrene together, our best bet for an adhesive is to use a solvent cement. In my case, now this originally, as you can see, was a bottle of Flexifile Plasti-Weld, which is a good solvent cement. Plastruct makes a couple of different solvent cements, one for styrene to styrene use and one for other various plastics or differing plastics. Micromark makes a solvent cement called Same Stuff, which works really, really well. The old Tinax was great stuff, or Ambroid Pro Weld. I could go on and name different solvent cements. If you do a lot of scratch building, probably your least expensive option is going to be just to go buy at the hardware store a can of MEK, which stands for methyl ethyl ketone. It is the basic chemical in all of those solvent cements that causes them to work. Now, the stuff that you buy at the hardware store, if it's true MEK, is going to be stronger than a lot of what you buy because it's usually a little bit diluted. So you want to be careful in how you use it. But this works really, really well. And basically, I just took the old bottle, bought some MEK at the hardware store, and I just keep filling it up to use the bottle. These bottles, this is true whether you're talking about MEK or paint or anything else. A bottle like this, so easy if we have it open just to knock it and tip it over. You definitely don't want to do that with this stuff because anything that's plastic that it touches is going to make a mess out of. So, just get a block of wood. This is an old scrap block of a 2x4. Took an 1.5-inch paddle bit and drilled most of the way through it, or you can drill all the way through it. And my bottle sits right in there. And now I'm not going to knock that over. I also drilled some little holes where I can stick the brushes that I'm using to do that with. Today, so we're going to be building today with the MEK, a solvent cement, and I'm going to be using a couple of different applicators. The first one I'm going to use is basically it's the fine version, not super fine, but fine, of a micro brush, which works well for making joints that you're not going to see. I have sometimes we have to use a solvent cement on the outside of a joint where it's going to be seen, and of course it's a solvent. It literally melts the plastic, so that can really destroy the look of a model if we get too much on the part that's visible. So I've got a different applicator that I'm going to show you for using on the outsides where those things would show. But we're going to start with this with the inside joints. And also we want to make sure we've made sure all of our corners are nice and square, but we want to make sure our corner joints are square. And so we can do several things, to do that. You can use like your machinist square, and square your joints up inside of there, but that's hard to hold and keep in one place. You can do them alongside of, this is a machinist block, a 3-2-1 block, and so you can use that to keep your joints nice and square as well. I've got a tool that I really like for this. Let me pick my pieces up here that I'll put up here. And this is literally it's a magnetic gluing jig. And I'm going to kind of turn it sideways here because I'm going to be working right in this corner. But this is it's a metal tray, and it's got square corners. It also comes with several magnets like this that you can use for actually holding your pieces in place and making sure that everything stays square in the corner here. Now, mine's got this piece of blue poster board in the bottom, and you don't need that. I cut that because I use this on camera and I get a lot of glare of the lights off of the bottom, so that's why I've got that piece in there. So, all right, here's my end pieces. I'm going to leave them out here for now. And I'm going to take a couple of my side pieces, and we're going to start just getting ready to kind of cement these together. I'm going to put two in the corner here. I want to be mindful of my joint, the direction that it laps. It's not as important yet, but it's going to be very important as we move forward. And take a couple of my magnets and hold it in place. And just like so. Or again, this is a long joint. You see it sticks up quite a ways above the box. You also the corner in the bottom of the box is also square, so you can also lay them sideways. So I can put this in here sideways, lay this one down flat, and push up against it and make a joint that direction. And I think in this case that's going to make my better joint. So I'm going to hold that in place, and then I'm just going to come in and get my micro brush and dip it in some of the solvent cement, and just going to make application across the joint. I'm not going quite all the way to the corners of the joint because I don't want to accidentally kind of glue the joint into the box, and sometimes that can happen. This stuff literally melts the plastic and welds it together, and I'm just going to hold that for a few seconds. It doesn't take long for that joint to make and to begin to stick. Let's see, Brian, a few more comments here. Let me see. He says the block bottle holder is a great idea. Yeah, thank you. That's good. You learn the need for that if you've ever spilled a bottle of this stuff or a bottle of paint all over everything. If you do that once, you suddenly begin to look for solutions to keep you from doing that. And then he says, where do I get the magnetic gluing tray? You can get these in a couple of places that I know of, probably more, but two easy places to find them are at Micromark, or you can also buy them on Amazon. They're not hard to find. Literally look for magnetic gluing jig is, I believe, what you'll be looking for. Magnetic gluing jig. Okay, and now before this joint completely sets up, I want to come out and make sure that it is nice and flush on the outside. In this case, I've got just a little bit of overhang there, but the joint is still soft, so I can adjust it just a little bit and get it to line up the way I want to. The idea here is to get this box close enough to exactly perfect on the corners that we don't have to do hardly any sanding. We won't save ourselves as much sanding as we can. And then once I get that all lined up, now I didn't go all the way to the corners with the glue before, but I'm going to do that now. Just do the corners, the bits that didn't get any glue on them before. And we'll hold that for just a moment here while we make sure that all of the seam lines up. And again, it literally only takes a few seconds for that glue to kind of begin to work. Now, I'm going to come in with my end piece, one of my end pieces, and remember, my arrow shows me the full length direction. And in this case, this side here is the one that is full length inside of the other two sides. So I know that I want to put this piece with the full length matching this piece, which is full length. And as I just set it in there, I see that it just matches up with this piece here and flushes up with the edge there. And I am ready to actually glue this piece in place now. So again, we're going to hold this in nice and snug with a couple of the magnets, and I'm going to slide this piece right up tight against both of the others. And in this case, I can glue two sides. And again, I don't want to go quite all the way to the corner, but just going to glue it in place across there. Basically, the important thing at this point is to kind of tack it into place. And then we'll check it as it begins to set a little bit. And then we'll add some glue to kind of finish it up. And I see that's long enough to make that set up. I got a nice joint there. Got a nice joint here, just off a hair there, and just a little bit of a nudge adjusts it. Now I can see already somewhere along the line one of my measurements didn't come out perfectly. No, that's not right. Never mind. I thought I made a mistake, but I didn't. That's a joke. Okay, so I'm just going to add the little extra glue to the corners that I didn't do when it was in the tray. Check everything. Okay, our box is starting to come together. Now, and here's what I like. This is the part where this should flush up, and those two pieces flush up really, really nicely. Okay, we're going to come in now with our next piece, which is going to set on top of this and butt against that one there. And you see I've got just a little bit of a lip there where it should set. And so if I push this into the corner, I can kind of slide this into place, and it just sets on top of that piece. And use my magnets again to kind of push everything in nice and tight. Whoops. Causing myself problems here. There we go. Okay, and that looks like everything's in pretty good shape. Now in this case, I'm going to glue these sides one at a time, just to make sure that everything stays square. So you can't see where I'm applying this glue, but I'm just putting this on the joint down at the bottom, first of all. Not quite going all the way to the ends, as I've done before. Hold that for a few seconds. And I do that because I want to make sure this joint gets lined up perfectly, and sometimes when you're putting pressure on one joint one direction, you can kind of mess up the joint in another direction. So now I'm just going to turn it around sideways like this. Or actually I can kind of almost freehand, just hold that freehand. I'm going to match those up just the way I want them. And now I'll come in and add my cement there. And I can go ahead and go to the corner here where I didn't before, because I can see exactly what I'm doing. Our box is coming together. I know this stream has carried on just a little longer than normal, but hey, we're doing some good work here. All right, I think we're going to put in our other end, and then our last piece will be a cap, and we may need to do just a little sanding and adjusting for that. Now again, here we want to make sure we get our arrow that shows the full length side in the right direction, and in that case, that goes up and down this way, just the same as the other one. And that should slide right into place in between the two sides and right down against the bottom. And we want to be careful to make sure we keep it right out against these so that all of these make nice flush joints. And again, we'll do these one at a time. My bottom joint down here looks really good, so I'm going to go ahead and put some cement along the bottom. Hold that tight for just a second. And then I'm going to flush up this joint here. You want to be really careful not to get too much of this solvent cement in a joint. Capillary action will pull it through the joint. If you get too much, it pulls it all the way through the joint. You get it on your fingers, and then the next time you touch your model, you've left a solvent fingerprint in your model that will never really come out. You can sand it out, but then you've marred the surface of your model by doing all the excess sanding. And so you want to be really, really careful to avoid that. All right, and then finally this piece here. Now here, again, we've got just a little bit of extra length here on this one. I think that one came out a little long. So what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that, we'll have to sand that off later. So I want to make sure that my joint is the equally in from the end of this piece all the way up so I can sand it and it'll end up being nice and square when I'm done. So I'm going to hold it that way and add some solvent cement. Make sure I went all the way to the corners. Hold that for just a moment. Okay, we've got 5/6 of a box. Now in this case, as I'm looking at this corner here is nice and perfectly flush. This one is well, just slightly off. This piece is just a little long on this side. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to sand those just a little bit to make them perfect before we put our last piece on here. I got this is just a sanding stick, kind of a medium grit sanding stick, and we're going to sand that joint down just a little bit. We could also go back to our piece of sandpaper that we were using on the table a little bit ago. In fact, I may do that here in a second, just because it may be a little bit faster than this. I don't want to catch and sand the sides of the box that I'm not trying to sand, so I'm doing this very carefully to try to make sure I'm just sanding that one end. I think we will do it this way. Actually holding the end I want to sand. Again, I'm going to do that gently. I don't want my box to want to tilt to one side or the other and then sand off too much off of one corner and not the other one. You see, if our measurements were absolutely perfect and if our cuts were absolutely perfect, we wouldn't have to do this. And that's, again, where practice kind of comes in. And that's looking pretty good. If I hold my last piece on here, well, that's still a little high on that end on both sides. We're going to sand this whole thing just a little more. Because the one thing I don't want is I want to make sure that I don't have any gaps in my joints. All right, because I mean, we have putty that we can use to fill gaps in joints, but we're a lot better off the less putty we have to use. Almost always end up using some putty somewhere, and that's okay. We'll talk about that probably in a future edition because we're running long in this one. But you know, if we've got to use a little bit of putty, that's not the end of the world, but the less we have to use, the better off we are. Okay, as I look at that joint is going to look like it's going to be pretty good. This one here, I mean, just take a little more off of this end. Good. Okay. All right. Those are looking pretty good. So I think we're ready to put our last piece on here. I'm going to move my gluing jig. I don't need that anymore. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little solvent cement on this to tack it in place, and then I'm going to show you how to glue a joint from the outside using that other tool that I mentioned earlier. But I'm going to start by just putting a little solvent cement on these outside edges. That's going to dry quickly, so that's not going to be enough to permanently hold it, but it'll be enough to tack it into place, hopefully, and then we'll get our other applicator. Now I want to get it on there and try to make sure it's as flush all the way around as I could possibly get it. That looks pretty good as far as being flush is concerned. Okay, now my other tool that I want to show you real quickly, I don't have a lot of time here. This is called a touch and flow applicator. This is from a company called Flexifile, and these are fantastic. Literally what I have here is it's a glass tube, and it has a blunt needle connected to the end. Hopefully you can see it there in the camera. And what this does is I fill this with my solvent cement, and then I can apply a very, very small amount of solvent cement to the outside of my model without putting so much on that I mar the surface. Now I've got a little bottle, and I had it right here. It is. Sometimes the touch and flow applicator comes in a kit that includes a little bottle like this, and this is for filling it. And literally the open end of the glass tube fits right inside of this, and this I can serve as suction to help pull the cement into the needle. If you buy one that doesn't come with this old plastic bottle, an ear syringe will do exactly the same job. So I'm going to just stick this down in the bottle of solvent cement. Gonna draw a little solvent cement up into the glass tube. About halfway is good enough. That should work. And then as I hold this, you'll begin to see just a droplet of cement form on that needle, and especially as I touch it here, literally capillary action will pull the solvent cement out of the needle and onto the model and make a very nice fine bead that doesn't mar the surface. And move on to the other side. Now one word that you might note as you use these, I think I could use just a little bit right there. Over time, with using it, you can get a little bit of melted styrene that kind of builds up in the inside of that needle, and then it'll stop flowing. And if that happens, all you need to do is take that needle end and drop it down in your bottle of solvent cement and let it sit for just a minute. Blow some air through it using your little suction bottle there or your ear syringe, and it'll melt it right out. Okay, and you see that's applied a nice fine bead of cement all the way around, didn't mar the surface at all. And there we have built a box. And you know, it may not be a very exciting piece to have, but we have practiced some great skills that will help us for our desired projects for scratch building. Now, this box didn't come out absolutely perfect. I've got one side right here that needs to be sanded down because it was just a little bit long somehow. And then, of course, you know, you almost always are going to need to sand some of these joints. But if we look at these from the side, where I have the cap type of end, looks really good. It's nice and square. Got a nice looking box there. We come in and sand down those pieces and would be in great shape. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera back up here on me, and I know we've run about double the length that we normally do on these live streams, but I hope that that's a project. Just as you watched me do it, I hope you can pick up some things there that'll help you as you try some scratch building. And this is a great project to practice some of those skills. And in fact, next time we come together on this Facebook live stream, we're going to do some more practicing of some different skills, a little more complex, using some more complex angles and such, that will continue to help us build and hone skills for scratch building. And I know that'll be a lot of fun, so I hope that you'll join me for that. Well, I want to remind you once again about that new Facebook community sponsored by Model Railroad Academy. I want to encourage you to join that. You should hopefully see a link to that in the chat section here, and that should be a great place where you can go and kind of share what you're doing, and also ask questions, get feedback on some of your work or some things that you might need to know about as you're continuing to build your skills at model railroading generally. Well, I hope that you all are doing well, staying safe, and I hope that you have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you next time here on Model Railroad Academy Facebook Live.